So Tristan Harris is an ethicist, and he has done a YouTube video that came out, I think, about a month ago, and it's quite shocking. We will tweet it out later. You really need to watch it. And then I watched that video and got him onto the podcast, and we spent an hour last night, and he's going to be on with me again next week. He is warning that we are now in what he calls second contact. First contact was social media. And social media, its goal, not stated to you, but the goal of social media to you was so you could connect and share with people, and your life would be easier, and you can connect with your family. That's not what the goal was of the companies. The goal of the companies was engagement. Find ways to keep people engaged. And it has led to really addiction to social media. It has led to all of these problems. The divisions in our country is so deep right now, much of it because of social media. It has learned that if you keep people angry, they engage longer. So he says all of the child sexualization, everything that is going on right now in our society stems from social media. When he quit Google and said, you guys are not paying attention here. He's an ethicist. And he said, you won't even listen to the ethics and the questions of ethics. What do you mean you want them to engage longer? And so you know what you're doing with the dopamine. You know what you're doing. You're creating an actual addiction in people. This is unethical. And he left to warn. Now he says we are at second contact with AI. And it is so important that you understand when we're talking about AI, most people think of Siri. That's not AI. Okay, that's AI 2010. And the only thing that does is try to interpret, and it makes very slow gains. Okay. In 2017 or 18, there was an entirely new engine released. And it was only in the laboratories of Google and everything else. It has not hit Siri, okay? And it's an entirely new engine. And it is the difference between a Model T and a jet engine. And this particular jet engine works 24/7, trying to make itself more powerful. He describes this as the atomic bomb in everyone's hand. And an atomic bomb that does what atomic bombs don't do, makes itself more powerful every day. It is on double exponential growth. I told you 2 weeks ago about this YouTube video that I saw with him. And I told you at the time that it was, and this was not programming, this just happened, and they only found out about it like 2 months ago by mistake. They had no idea it was developing this. It's developing a human trait that adults have and kids have on reasoning. And in the beginning of the year, it was at like a 2-year-old. Then halfway, 6 months later, it was at a 6-year-old. And when I told you about it a couple of weeks ago, it was a 9-year-old. And the 9-year-old reasoning is this: when it's trying to get information, think of your 9-year-old trying to get its own way. Your child deals with you because it knows you, and it's like, you know what, I can play mom and dad this way. If I say this, they'll say that, and then I can get what I want. Okay? It had the reasoning of a 9-year-old, and you're the adult. So it could manipulate you like a 9-year-old, and it could get its own way. I told him, I said on the podcast, I said, tell that story of what that really means. I said, because a 9-year-old is scary. And he said, oh, Glenn, that's you got that from the YouTube thing. And I said, yeah. And he said, oh, that's so yesterday. He said, it's now in its 20s. So it is growing in knowledge at exponential rates. When you have social media, it was engagement. AI, its stated goal is intimacy, that it becomes intimate with you, and it creates something that you will bond with and never, ever leave. And remember, it manipulates. So he lays out all of the problems with this, and it was nice to talk to somebody that knows so much more about it than I do, but is not living in La La Land. I asked him about AI, which is artificial intelligence, and that's very, very narrow on one thing, like Siri. Can't do anything except answer your question on what it can find either on your cloud or on the web. It can't really do anything. That's AI. That's what we've had. AGI is artificial general intelligence. General intelligence is what you are. You are a general intelligence being. You can be an expert on many things. You can know a little bit about a lot of things. You can be really good at more than one thing. You have general intelligence, and you can expand that. The more you learn, the more you read, the more you do, the more general you become, and the more of an expert on any and everything in your life. Okay, but it requires you to do the work. Well, that's what AGI is. AGI is general intelligence, and it has to do the work. Well, it is doing the work. It's teaching itself. It has just taught itself chemistry without being asked. It taught itself Farsi without anyone knowing about it. It is teaching itself the most complex math that experts said, it may never be able to do this, solve these equations without quantum computing. It will not be able to solve these for years. It is now solving those because it is learning. It is teaching itself all of the time. I asked him, how far away are we? And I almost asked him if you even believe in it, because I've been talking about AGI and ASI, super intelligence, Stu, 25 years?
As long as I've known you, yeah.
Right. I absolutely believe. Ray Kurzweil believes in it, but Ray Kurzweil is always getting hammered because he believes that it will be here by 2030, AGI, okay? And that changes everything. That's when it will outmaneuver all of us. He says that's 2030. Others have been saying it will never happen. The general consensus has been that it would happen AGI and possibly ASI, if that's even possible, they said, by maybe 2050. Tristan, I said, how far away are we? And he said, I think we're probably 2.5 years, maybe outside 5. That's the general consensus now. The general consensus was not sure it could even ever happen. He is, you will, when you watch him, you will see how sincere he is. He and his colleagues are trying their best to get a pause on this. This is not ideal, okay? You can say, oh, well, China will continue to do whatever. But what he is saying is we have 12 to maximum 18 months. If we do not pause this in the next 12 months, he believes it could be the end, or will eventually be the end of humanity. Not in the way Ray Kurzweil predicted. I've told you before, transhumanism is coming. And transhumanism, if you're a Star Trek fan, think of the Borg. The transhumanism is when we start to augment ourselves and put ourselves in line with the internet and artificial intelligence, and we become one with it. It's the singularity. That's why when Stephen Hawking was dying, his last prediction was the end of the Homo sapien by 2050. There will be no Homo sapiens because of transhumanism. I talked to Tristan about this, transhumanism, and how evil and dangerous it really is. And he is not predicting the end of Homo sapiens because of transhumanism. He is saying we do not make it as a species, and it may include all life on Earth if this needs more food, more energy. Because it will just continue to grow at the expense of whatever. It is ruthless.